morning we're going to be working with the distributive property. We'll be using the distributive property with both fractions and decimals this morning. First thing we need to look at is a little bit of vocabulary. The distributive property states that if a factor is multiplied by the sum of two numbers, then you can multiply each of the two numbers by the factor and then add. Definition of a factor is one of two or more numbers or quantities that can be multiplied together to give a particular number or quantity. The word sum means the total amount resulting when two or more numbers or quantities are added together. Try to keep these vocabulary definitions in mind as we go through our lesson this morning. You can also use the distributive property to help you multiply a mixed number or a decimal by a whole number. Let's start out this morning by doing a few examples. We'll call this first one example number 1. In this example, we will be multiplying 4 times 2 and 863 thousandths. What we're going to do is we're going to actually take and multiply the 4 and spread it across each of these other numbers right here. So we're going to start out with 4 times 2 plus 4 times 0.8 plus 4 times 0.06 and finally 4 times 0.003. Now, as you can see by this, we have taken and broken the original number 2 and 863 thousandths into individual components: the 2, the 8/10ths, the 600ths, and the 3 thousandths. And now we're just going to do our arithmetic. We can say 4 times 2 is 8 plus 4 times 0.8, so we can come to our scratch area and we can say 0.8 times 4, and 4 times 8 is 32, carry our 3, 4 times 0 is 0 plus 3 is 3. Then we have to determine where to put our decimal number, our decimal point. In this case, we look back in our original problem and we see that this is one place over from the left. So we'll come to our answer. Starting on our left, we'll move this over and put our decimal point, which is 3.2. So that having been done, we know now that 4 times 0.8 is actually 3 and 2/10. Alright, now we must do the same thing with 4 times 0 and 600. So we will come to our scratch area again. We'll say 0.06 times 4. 4 times 6 is 24. Carry our 2. 4 times 0 is 0 plus 2 is 2. 4 times 0 is 0. Here we notice that our decimal point is 2 places over, so we'll go to our answer and move it over our decimal point 2 places to the left in our answer as well, so that 0.06 times 4 is actually equal to 0 and 24 hundredths. Once again, we must go now to our last number where we're multiplying 4 times 3 thousandths. So we're going to write down 0.003 in our scratch area, multiply that times 4. 4 times 3 is indeed 12. We put our 2, carry our 1. 4 times 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. Now let's look and see how far over our decimal point is. 1, 2, we see it's in 3 places. So we go to our answer and we move it over in 3 places. 1, 2, 3, and we put it right here. So we know that 4 times 3 thousandths is actually equal to 0.012. Now, what we can do is to combine the first two numbers and then the second two numbers together. We know that 8 plus 3.2 is going to equal 11 and 2/10. And over here we've got 0.24 plus 0.012, and we know that that can be added in our scratch area. So we'll go again to our scratch area and we will write down 0.012. And whenever you are adding or subtracting decimals, you should always line your decimals up. So in this case 0.24, and we can add this up. 2 plus 0 is 2, 1 plus 4 is 5, 0 plus 2 is 2. Bring your decimal point straight down, and 0 plus 0 is 0. So that we know that 0.24 plus 0.012 is equal to 0.252. Now we just have to combine our last two numbers. So we'll come to our scratch area again. We will write down 0.252, and we will add that to 11 and 2/10. Again, you notice I put my decimal points directly above one another. So anytime you're adding and subtracting with decimals, you need to do this. 2 plus 0 is 2. 5 plus 0 is 5. 2 plus 2 is 4. Bring my decimal point straight down. 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. So that our answer, when we combine the 11.2 and 0.252, you should get a sum of 11 and 452 thousandths. You must always remember that you should go back and put that up into your original problem. So we'll move our answer back up, because now we know that 4 times 2 and 863 thousandths is equal to 11 and 452 thousandths. I like to circle my answers because that way an instructor can see immediately that that is what you meant to be for your answer. Alright, let's take a look at another example. We're going to call this example number 2. In this example, we're going to multiply 7 times 3 and 82 hundredths. Again, we've got to distribute the 7 across each of the other numbers. So we'll say 7 times 3 plus 7 times 0 and 8/10 plus 7 times 0 and 2 hundredths. Alright, now it's just a matter of doing our arithmetic. We know that 7 times 3 is 21, but we don't know what 7 times 8/10 is, so we'll go to our scratch area and we'll write 0 and 8/10, and we will multiply that times 7. We know that 8 times 7 is 56. Carry our 5. 7 times 0 is 0, plus 5 is 56. Now I need to determine where to put that decimal point. I can see in my original number that it's one place over, so I know I have to do that in my answer as well. So I will move my decimal from the right side going to the left one place, so that 7 times 0.8 is actually equal to 5 and 6/10. Now we have to do our final group of numbers, which is 2 hundredths. So we will write down 0 and 2 hundredths, and we'll multiply that times the 7. 7 times 2 is indeed 14. Carry our 1. 7 times 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. 7 times 0 is 0. Let's look and see where to place our decimal point. We can see in the original number that it is 2 places over, so we know that it has to be 2 places over in our answer. So we go 1, 2, and we will place it there. So that 7 times 2 hundredths is actually equal to 0 and 1/4. Alright, now we must combine these numbers. So what we can do here to save us a little time is we will just, since it's all addition, we will just take and write all the numbers vertically. 0 and 1/4 plus 5 and 6/10 plus 21. Now notice I did not put a 0 to take up this placeholder over here underneath the 4. I could have if I needed to, but I didn't need to. I also did not in the last number, which is a whole number, 21. In this case, 21, we could have put that decimal right here, and we could have filled in placeholders if we needed to. As you mature in your mathematical abilities, you will not have to do these things, but if it helps to keep you straight, by all means at this point in your education, please do that. So we're going to add 4 plus 0 plus 0, which is 4. 1 plus 6 plus 0 is 7. When you're adding or subtracting decimals, you always line your decimals up, as you can see I have done here. In your answer, you have to bring it straight down. Make sure you do not leave that decimal point out. Let's look at our ones place. We got 0 plus 5 plus 1 is 6, and then 0 plus 0 plus 2 would be 2. So that 21 plus 5 and 6/10 plus 14 hundredths is actually equal to 26 and 74 hundredths. Remember, I stated this earlier, that you should always go back and put your answer in the original problem. In this case, 7 times 3.82 is equal to 26 and 74 hundredths. And I will circle that so that my instructor will know where my answer actually is. Okay, that concludes the multiplying of decimals. Now, let's use that distributive property when we multiply mixed numbers. We'll call this next example, example number 3. And the first problem we'll do will be 3 times 5 and 1/4. Again, we're going to distribute that 3 across all of these other components and this other number, so that we'll have 3 times 5 plus 3 times 1/4. We know that 3 times 5 is 15, so we'll go ahead and write that down. Now, something you must remember whenever you're multiplying whole numbers times fractions is that any whole number over 1 is equal to itself. So we'll put 3 over 1, multiply that times 1/4. We'll bring our 15 down once again. When you're multiplying fractions, you just multiply straight across, your numerators straight across, and then your denominator straight across. So here we'll say 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 4 is 4. And then we can take and do our final part of this, which is adding 15 plus 3/4, and we know that 15 plus 3/4 is equal to 15 and 3/4. Again, once you've done all of your work, you must go and put your answer back in your original problem. So 3 times 5 and 1/4 is equal to 15 and 3/4. don't forget you must circle that answer. Keeps that instructor safe. There's no guessing for him or her. Alright, let's take a look at one more mixed number using the distributive property. We'll call this example number 4. Alright, our problem this time will be, let's see, 6 times 3 and 2/3. Once again, we're going to distribute that 6 across all of the other components in this number. We'll say 6 times 3 plus 6 times 2/3. We know that 6 times 3 is 18. And again, we've got to put our 6 over 1 because we're multiplying fractions. We bring our 18 down once again, and we're going to say 6 times 2 is 12. 1 times 3 is 3. Now what we have here is an improper fraction, so we've got to change that into, or simplify that if at all possible. In this case, we know that there are 4 3's in 12, so 12 divided by 3 is 4. We'll bring that down, and then 18 plus 4 is 22. Once again, we go back to our original problem where it's written down. Say 6 times 3 and 2/3 is equal to 22. And that concludes that particular problem.